This is a book review of Jesus and His Enemies, Narrative Conflict in the Four Gospels by Robert R. Beck. A bit of history from Robert Beck. He is a Catholic priest who has written a myriad of books such as Banished Messiah, Violence and Nonviolence in Matthew's History of Jesus, A Light to the Centurions, and many others. He is known for his religious writings and his work as a religious professor at Loras College. Getting into the book itself, it is based around the four major Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and looking at them at more of in a contextual sort of way rather than the interpretation. This goes along great with our class's emphasis on context that we've talked about throughout the semester. Beck takes great care to write down each Gospel and its relevancy to what he believes is the meaning of it, like looking a bit into the person themselves, especially with Matthew and Luke. I saw that specifically, and seeing how relevant it and the context of it to today. For example, in Matthew's section, Beck speaks about Matthew's ritually oriented visions and how it could have affected some of his later writings. He also brings us up with Mark, Luke, and John as well. Matthew is the part that I specifically saw that he had quite a bit to say about his personal life and how could it have affected his gospel in relation to the other gospels. On a bit of a side note, the book is very easy to read. Robert Beck has a very simple writing style that's easy to get into, and it's very, very viewer friendly. That being said though, for me personally, I find the book to be a bit of a mixed bag. While I do find his rampant knowledge of most of the Gospels very interesting, I do believe he does go on a few tangential, not rant specifically, but he goes through a lot of tangents that I think detract from the book. There are numerous examples throughout the book, specifically in Luke, where he goes on a tangent based around the delegation of powers. I find that part unimportant to the actual rest of the book. I believe that if it was going through an additional revision, that probably would have been cut. That being said, though, it is something to bring up, and there are many more examples. Specifically, there's a few in Matthew, which I really think detracted from the chapter. Overall, though, I don't believe it was a huge issue. It's just something that I noticed. Another correlation that I did find fascinating throughout Jesus and His Enemies was the different interpretations of Jesus. Some saw him as the absolute top Messiah, some just saw him as a man above others, but still within the realm of possibility. I always found that a very, very fascinating part of Christianity in particular. How through different denominations of the church that people can see Jesus in different lights. Especially someone following Catholicism, which, again, still Christianity, but a different denomination. I always found his interpretation of Jesus, it was not made very clear, but I did enjoy how he, without going into his personal beliefs, I know he did, I know there was certain references throughout the book. I do find that how he showed every interpretation of Jesus through each gospel, completely the same, was very admirable out of him. And that really added to at least some positive credence to the book. Overall, while I do have moderate issues with the book, I do believe it is a serviceable intro to the New Testament. Especially for someone that's non-religious as myself that had no prior knowledge of Christianity. I believe it is a great way to get inside the New Testament and learn about the Bible.